This week, as you can see, we're again COVIDly safe distanced, and things have gone a little bit wrong, but that's not going to stop us from bringing you our latest exciting instalment,
the Mazda 6 GT SP station wagon.
Station wagon. Pricing for this is rather good, David. I had a look on Mazda's public website, and this is around $52,000 and some change, which I think is pretty good for a comfortable 5-seater family car.
Well, Mazdas were never the cheapest.
And they've gone up market too, of course.
Yeah, and they are a little bit more of a prestige Camry in a way, but then again, Camry's become very good.
There's 4 cars in the range, but there's 2 engines, both with 6-speed Skyactiv transmissions. Now, I think that is a little bit shy of the mark. I think nowadays we can expect 8 speeds at a minimum, but anyway, 6 speeds, which Mazda claims, is still economical. These are 19-inch wheels, which I think is spectacular, and it looks good with this kind of gunmetal grey. Sadly, I can't actually give you a better view of it than this because it's even worse outside than it is in here.
The thing that makes the side and that look very good is a sloping roof. Just a little bit of an angle
Beautiful.
to it.
And
it's not the square parent mobile.
Yeah. And this back window, I think this is particularly well designed. Now this has got those things that I don't like in some of the Korean cars that go up here instead. Now the advantages of a wagon over a hatchback, of course, is the extra space that you get in the cargo area. And this is particularly good cargo space. It's got a little bit under 500 Coke bottles. David, can you imagine getting 500 Coke bottles in there?
I think that is a little bit short compared to what I would have expected, and I think you'd have to pack very carefully. Oh, and this looks a bit oldie-worldy.
It does look oldie-worldy. It looks like a gentleman's club. Now, you had a little trouble getting in then. That roof is quite low.
Not too bad though. For the sloping line, once I'm sitting in my seat, I've got a couple of inches there, and your seat is back a fair way, and I've got some good space here.
And there's plenty of room. Can't quite see it on the camera, but for your feet?
Yeah, getting those under here.
It's beautiful. And what do you think of this gorgeous burgundy upholstery?
I do. I like it. That's where I say it's got a little bit of the old sort of Rover, Humber sort of look about it.
And of course, David, the 4 outboard seats are all heated with the buttons in the back on the centre console. So you pull that down.
Yep.
Bob's your uncle.
That's good. That's not having to duck too much. Like it's a sedan, but so I fit in that comfortably and have most things laid out. A bit oldie-worldy, not oldie-worldy, but certainly not the biggest screen that's there. Got paddles and a degree of technology. Interesting, the speedo is right in front of me, small little tacho on the left, and the information stuff is on the right. Yeah,
there's only one LCD screen though, David. I think in the updates they could have done, because this is still a $52,000 car, that I think could have been made a full LCD screen. Well, keep in mind you do have a heads-up display. When we get on the road, we'll demonstrate that.
Heads-up display I like.
I saw a comment on one of the car forums about people that just back using this. They don't even look up from the screen, and I thought, well, it's actually far better vision than looking backwards. This has got a lot of the niceties, David, I think, of a modern car. We've got automatic lights. The LED lights have a high beam function as well. And in the top model, they've got a pretty decent adaptive LED function as well. But you'll notice here the infotainment system blacks out once you're moving. So you can't actually, because Mazda's a bit safety obsessed, you can't actually do anything with that touch screen once the wheels are turning.
Well, seriously?
See?
You know what? I like that because I like the hand control down on the left.
You like the little knobby thing here?
Yes.
Now you can see that I've had my Apple CarPlay connected. I haven't got it connected just now. But the problem is that the USB connection for that is here here in the center console bin, and it's right at the back. You can't possibly do it while you're driving, which is really annoying. I'd prefer them here in the console, but where you can get at it in the console, not, you know, sort of right at the back. Now, the other thing that I want to point out is the ride. This is so smooth.
I'm conscious of a little bit of road noise, but then again, that's a reflection of the quality of the road.
I think the other thing too is that considering we're on such big wheels, I think the ride and the noise is more than acceptable. And what I can see in front of me on the windscreen, and at quite a good height too, is the speed limit, the speed I'm doing, and whether or not my active cruise control is active. I've also in this car got blind spot monitoring.
I think it's upgraded that software and with a little bit of hardware to be able to detect extra things around you.
Yeah, look, I think it's done really, really well. And this still feels like a properly posh car. Now, this is quite a tight hairpin bend coming up, a corkscrew bend coming up onto the bridge. It is a wet day, so I've kept it down to a dull roar. That's why I'm doing this demo and Nicky Loud is not. And handled that beautifully.
Oh, it just sat nicely.
Only front-wheel drive, David.
The front-wheel drive, the big question is how well, and these conditions are good for it because the road is wet, will it cope when you're starting out up a hill, perhaps even going, you know, turning a bit of a corner?
Again, one of your pet hates. You hate cars that are on hills scampery doodling for grip.
Yeah. Well, the other problem is that a lot of cars have a lot of horsepower too.
Well, 170 kilowatts. So it's not exactly. It's not. You're not going to set the world on fire anytime soon. So I'll do a quick demo now that the car's stopped. We've stopped to do this. You can see there that the touch screen has gone into touch mode. If we were moving, that's all blocked out, and you've got to control it down here. Now, the central command screen, this is a little bit dicky and slightly old-fashioned to use. That's how you get to your favourites look. I was already in favourites because that's what I'd gone on to. But if you just go into radio, your favourites aren't there. You've got to go using this star or this star. And that's how you fettle your favourites. Now, there's other things in here such as navigation and your phone. Now, down below are buttons for home and other things that you need to control the infotainment system with. There's also the electric parking brake, the auto hold button to hold brakes in traffic, and down here, dual zone air conditioning with, David, a sync button. I think this is, to me, this is what I want in an air conditioning system, where I can see these buttons here, and I would not call this at all in any way cluttered. This lovely soft touch fabric here across the dash, this genuine fake artificial cow, and there's stitching up here too, look. I think that just looks beautiful. A little bit of piano black. I just think this is lovely and elegant. Overhead, a place to put your sunglasses. Now, we're going over some of the expansion joints in the Sydney Harbour Bridge. That's very smooth.
I can hear it, but it's not transmitting.
It's not uncomfortable, is it?
Shock waves, particularly through the car.
Everything's kept at distance. Now, I can imagine being on quite a long trip here in the back. I'd probably get the person in the front to put their seat up a bit. How do you find the steering?
Light and easy.
It is very light. Now, that does change a little bit, I think, with sport mode. Now that we're on not so great, we're in Harris Street in central Sydney. The ride here is on this road that's got bumpy areas is still pretty good, and gear changes relatively responsive.
Yeah, that fluffed just a little there when it was between which gear it might do. Perhaps the gearbox is not as advanced as some. It's not as if it's bad.
This car's 9 years old. No, so it's a 9-year-old drivetrain. They haven't put new drivetrains into this. But one thing that I think is particularly telling is that this turbo is lovely and smooth, and it adds a rather disappointing, David, 30 kilowatts. I would have expected a turbo to add more than that. The base model without the turbo is 140 kilowatts, but considerably more Newton meters. That's all this week from the Mazda, not the 626, which is what I was going to say, but the Mazda 6 GT SP station wagon. But as always, David, if you've liked the film, or even if you haven't liked the film, hit like,
leave a comment,
and just here to subscribe.